Okay, here we are. We're live. We're ThinkTech Talks on a given Wednesday. We're talking today, of course, it's Wednesday. We're talking about Hawaii, the state of clean energy, which is put forward by the Hawaii Clean Energy Policy, Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, Hawaii Energy, the Energy Efficiency Organization, and DBED. And I think Hawaiian Electric is in there too. So those are our sponsors and supporters. And this is Wednesday, every Wednesday. By the way, we broadcast live on Ustream for video. We broadcast live for audio on Spreaker.com. We post to YouTube immediately after our shows, so you can find all our shows up on YouTube and forever. And we send our shows to Olelo, where we have 6 hours a week of broadcast time on Olelo, Channel 54, the public policy station. We sometimes include clips from our shows in our movies that we make for OC16. We make a new movie for OC16 every week, and those movies play 7 times in a given week. Anyway, that behind us, we have a three-way combination for the moment. We have me, Jay Fidel. We have Stan Osserman, a director of the Hawaii Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies, but you can be informal and call it HCAT. Stan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jay.
Nice to have you here.
Good to be here.
And we have long distance by Skype from San Francisco, is it? We have Mark Jewell. Welcome to the show to you, Mark.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Mark, let's go to you first because you're our negawatt moment courtesy Hawaii Energy today. And we understand, and we knew this before when we spoke to you 2 weeks ago, that you're coming out here to teach some courses in efficiency. So why do I need to have a course in efficiency? What do I need to learn about efficiency? Isn't it a matter of just being efficient? Shouldn't everybody be automatically efficient?
It's funny. That's a good provocative question to start us off with, Jay. Thanks. You know, this is the fifth or sixth time we've had the privilege of coming back and sponsored by Hawaii Energy to give courses on the islands. And typically when we come to town, we're bringing the knowledge that we've accumulated over the last 20 years, touching about 3 billion square feet of real estate, scar tissue, I like to call it, about why people say yes or no to efficiency. You know, a lot of, common sense. You grew up in the Depression, your father, grandfather grew up in the Depression. You know, you turn your lights out, you close the refrigerator door fast, you don't leave the lights on when you leave the house, and you don't turn the air conditioning on, then leave the house, etc. But, you know, a lot of that's still conservation more than efficiency. In fact, if you ever want a real hoot, you could look at some BC Hydro videos on YouTube about how ridiculous energy waste is. I'll recommend that to you and your listeners. But getting back to the point, we are coming to the islands to share a couple of unique spins on efficiency. One is that, Hawaii actually is not as, how should I say it's benchmarking. I'll approach the topic from the other direction. Benchmarking energy performance of buildings in Hawaii is not as prolific as it is elsewhere in the United States.
What does benchmarking mean, Mark?
I'm just getting to that. Benchmarking energy performance. The EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, many years ago came out with a taxpayer-funded tool called Portfolio Manager. And it allows you to figure out what the energy use intensity is of your building. A variety of commercial buildings. In fact, they're adding multifamily apartment buildings this fall. But right now they have 17 or 20 space types. And for certain space types, you can get national averages, you can get Energy Star labels, meaning you get awarded being in the top 25% most efficient buildings in your space type. But in any case, I haven't seen the kind of penetration of this that we've seen in other places in the country. So we're going to talk about benchmarking. We're also going to talk about how to make benchmarking a business, because you've got contractors and engineers and auditors who could actually add benchmarking to the list of services, not only getting prospects more interested in their services, but also proving to their customers for whom they've done retrofits in the past that these retrofits have actually yielded real savings, even if their utility bill went up. Because one of the beautiful things about benchmarking is it normalizes for things like weather and occupant density and the addition of a data center, changes in operating hours and things like that. The other thing we're going to talk about, which I think is very exciting, is really what we do here at the Efficiency Sales Professional Institute in San Francisco, is we're going to teach people how to sell efficiency. Now, Hawaii Energy was the first utility-related program that sponsored this week-long boot camp, this is back in 2012, in the world. And they're bringing us back for another boot camp in May. Next week, we're having a one-day course on how to sell efficiency effectively. That's on Monday. All these classes next week are at the Doubletree Hotel, Ala Moana Boulevard in Waikiki, by the way. And so for $40, somebody can come and learn how to sell efficiency effectively.
So how
And
do
then
you teach somebody how to sell efficiency? Because as I mentioned before we began, I think the important thing for the public is they don't fully understand what efficiency means to them, and they blow it off, as you said when you started. And
I think it's even worse.
What do you teach them about?
Well, I think it's even worse than that. I think that in Hawaii, the utility costs have been so high for so many years that it's almost like learned helplessness. People think of high utility costs taking a huge portion of their P&L or their household budget as a sort of inevitable, like a fixed expense, death and taxes. So the first thing we say is let's take control of your energy use. Let's measure what you're using. And now, but in terms of selling, to address your question specifically, Jay, selling is, many people in this world just promote energy efficiency as a greater good. The Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative, decreasing your carbon footprint, saving the drowning polar bears, whatever spin you want to put on it. But the bottom line is it's more than that. It's a way to actually get control, how to give you more of what you're already looking for in your business. Higher productivity, less scrap rate, less errors in pick and pack and warehouses, better sales in retail by putting in better quality lighting so your customers can see the product. So we take that spin that you're not really selling efficiency, you're selling outcomes that these customers already wanted. You're reframing efficiency so that it can be measured with yardsticks that these people are already using to measure their own success. That's our unique spin on it.
Mark, it sounds like the people you're talking to are building owners, managers, property managers who control large facilities in which the energy stakes are high. It doesn't sound like you're talking about mom and pop kettle with a single family home.
It's actually, I misspoke, because what we're going to be teaching next week is relevant whether you have your own home, whether you have a small business, because listen, sales per square foot and decreased spoilage with better refrigeration and other things are just as effective, probably even more important for a bodega selling groceries as it is for a supermarket chain. But we also have another big important audience we're going to help next week, and because we've done this in the past, the 3 years we've been coming to the islands, is the contractors, the vendors, the engineers, the consulting specifying engineers, the architects, people that would really like to sell efficient products and services, but they just don't know how to do it well. And so by giving them better tools, they'll be able to get more efficiency baked into what they sell on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more than just
this will be very interesting, and I'm sure it'll be interesting to people especially who are professionals and whose job it is to make sure that the spreadsheet works at the end of the month.
Yes.
And those are the big numbers. And those are the people who I hope you'll be able to reach and show the way, because we're talking again before the show about how the best kilowatt hour is the one that's totally free.
Yeah. It's funny. You were talking about small business, Jay. Last time I was in Hawaii speaking at the Honolulu Country Club for a week for Hawaii Energy, we bought muffins from a coffee shop. I won't name the coffee shop, but it's a local coffee shop. And I asked the proprietor, when I was ordering these 60 muffins for the event one day, and I asked her, what's your energy bill like? And she told me that her rent was $9,000 a month, and her energy bill was $4,500 a month. This is a coffee shop. Now, they bake on premises, so obviously it's not your normal coffee shop, but holy cow, her utility bill was half her rent. Yeah. So clearly that kind of a business owner can fundamentally change their profitability by embracing energy efficiency.
That's a great story. And
yeah, it's amazing.
I think you'll find a lot of people in that exact same category, too.
Absolutely. I mean, she was a proprietor. She was working the cash register. She had to lay somebody off because the energy bills were too high.
Yeah.
So we can fundamentally change the personality of these small business people, the profile of their profitability, just by allowing them to learn how to learn how to know where they're wasting energy and how to get a hold of it.
Well, I think it's beyond their bottom line too, because you proliferate that, you multiply that times, hundreds of thousands, and then what you get is a better economy because you get more disposable cash. You're not sending money away, to faraway places for oil. And the result is that money is in the pockets of those small businessmen, so you get all kinds of secondary effects. They do better, their children are more likely to stay with them, the business is more likely to continue and hire people and prosper. So all kinds of secondary effects.
Yeah, I'll give you one closing thought, Jay, before we go to your next guest. That is that one of our favorite things is to tell our people, whether they're business owners or people selling to business owners, take the amount of energy that you have the prospect of saving with the help of this new technology or Hawaii Energy's incentives or rebates or our intelligence of how to sell more effectively, and divide that number of dollars by the net margin of the business. And that tells you how many dollars of revenue you'd have to have if you didn't save this negawatt. And it's breathtaking. I mean, in a small grocery, they might be operating on a 1 or 2% margin. Every dollar you save, at a 2% margin, every dollar is equivalent to $50 in new revenues. So that resonates with a small business owner much more than just saying you're going to cut their bill by $80 a month.
I think it resonates with Stan Osserman also. He's shaking his head. But don't be deceived. I think he's got some tough questions up his sleeve for you. Stan, it's your opportunity for cross-examination of Mark T. Jewell.
Should I brought qualified counsel to this meeting?
It's hard to cross-examine him when I agree with him. I've always said that the first thing you do when you're talking energy is looking at your efficiencies and cutting back where you can. And part of the business that we do is look at our efficiency in our structures in the Air Force. And part of even in HCAT, where we talk transportation, infrastructure is important to me. And if I want to make hydrogen for hydrogen vehicles, I have to look at efficiencies in buildings. And I combine the two of them and say, well, if I have energy storage using hydrogen and I can make my buildings more efficient, then my hydrogen stretches farther and things like that. So I build that into my calculation. But we have several new buildings at HECO for our F-22 fighters that are net zero buildings by design. Wow. And one that's being retrofitted to not only be net zero, but to go completely on renewables and have backup power that's renewable or hydrogen fuel cell power.
That sounds like a segue into the next part of the show, don't you think, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mark Jewell, thank you for joining us. I hope we can catch you while you're here and maybe do another segment with you and get a handle on exactly how it goes for you. Aloha to, we welcome you and look forward to seeing you soon.
Terrific. Thanks, Jay. And Stan, nice to meet you on the air. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Yep. Aloha. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, Stan, that was a terrific cross-examination. Blistering, I would say. So what were you saying again about HCAT? What is HCAT? What kind of an acronym is that?
That's a good start. HCAT, Hawaii Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies. That's why we say HCAT, because it's a mouthful. But what we do is we're a small state office. We only have 4 employees. We're basically state employees under DBED through HTDC, High Tech Development Corporation, over in Manoa. But we get our funding from the federal government, mostly the Air Force, to do projects at HECO. And that's why I kind of segued into the buildings at HECO.
So what in your life brought you to this place?
Brought me to this place. Well, I was working as in the Air National Guard as the liaison between U.S. Pacific Command and the state of Hawaii in renewable energy and energy efficiency. And then I was approached by someone to talk to HCAT and HTDC about filling Tom Quinn's shoes, and he had some big shoes to fill. So they were looking for somebody with a military background, someone that knew how to talk to the congressional delegation and the legislature and work those issues. So I said, okay, I'll go and talk to him.
Yeah, welcome aboard. When we saw you last, you were occupying another role, am I right?
I was doing both jobs a lot. Now I'm getting really close. I'm finally learned I'm going to be able to retire this summer, so from the Guard side. So I'll still just focus on
then you can put in
HCAT.
full-time on HCAT.
Yeah. But we still got a lot going on at HECO. Even if I'm not in the Guard anymore, we're going to be doing a lot at HECO.
Well, there's a clear relationship. I mean, HECO has a big HCAT facility, doesn't it, with the buses and the hydrogen tanks and the filling station, all that?
Yes, we do. We one of our contractors operates the hydrogen production and fueling station at HECO, and we service the vehicles, the GM and Ford vehicles that Tardic and some of the other services use. So right now we service all of the military vehicles and federal vehicles, including Kailua Post Office postal vehicle that's hydrogen fuel cell powered.
You know what I see, though, and we can talk about this in greater detail after the break, but I see the federal government embracing hydrogen, making investment in hydrogen, educating people in the service, in the federal establishment in hydrogen, and it stops there. As you know, we do not have it on the roads and highways and byways and whatnot of Hawaii or many other places. I mean, there's some school buses around, but not a lot. And what we have to talk about is how we're going to, get through that barrier, how HCAT or whatever agencies are involved are going to get through that barrier. Because you and I agreed before the show that hydrogen is the way to go. That rhymes.
I agree.
Yeah. We'll be right back after this break. We're talking with Stan Osserman. He's the director of HCAT. This is ThinkTech Talks. We're here on Wednesday, of course, in the state of clean energy, and we're talking about, what are we talking about? Update on clean cars. Okay, or something like that. Transportation. The voice you heard was Sharon Moriwaki, who is going to be joining us at the table faster than she realizes. Castle & Cook, Hawaii. Investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state. Collateral Analytics. Empowering the real estate industry to make better informed property investment decisions. The Foreign Trade Zone. Bringing the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone programs to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. Galen Ho, a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company. Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island. The Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, incorporating diverse perspectives to design a flexible and forward-looking energy strategy. Hawaii Energy, the state's energy and efficiency program created to help Hawaii's residents and businesses adopt a clean energy lifestyle. Hawaii Gas, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future. Hawaii Pacific Health, bringing technology and teamwork together to transform healthcare in Hawaii. The High Tech Development Corporation, attached to DBED, is the state's leading technology agency. The Scheidler Family Foundation, supporting educational, cultural, and charitable organizations, including ThinkTech.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha. I'm Hong Jiang, host for...
Aloha, I'm Maria Kashem of ThinkTech Hawaii, and I want to tell you about our ThinkTech talk shows. If you didn't know it, ThinkTech streams video and audio for all of its shows live on the internet from 2 to 5 p.m. every weekday afternoon, and we replay them all night long on ustream.tv. Visit thinktechhawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links. Raise your awareness on ThinkTech. I'm Maria Kashem, and I'll see you there.
We're back, we're live, we're ThinkTech Talks on a given Wednesday here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy, updating ourselves on clean transportation. And you may notice that the picture you see is slightly different than it was 2 minutes ago. And that's because we have somebody else in the frame. That person's name is Sharon Moriwaki. Sharon, say hi to the people.
Hi, everybody. Aloha.
And if you thought that Stan Osserman to my left gave a blistering cross-examination to Mark Jewell, wait till you see what happens now. I warn you, Stan, she's a lawyer. Ooh. And she has slept well.
I only stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. I think I'm in trouble.
Okay, so here we are, and I wanted to ask you, and this is kind of a loaded question, and maybe you're going to give us a fancy answer, is what are the options in clean transportation? And let's study, vehicular transportation on the roadways and highways and byways first.
Okay, let's start with kind of where we left off the last time I was talking to you, and you were disappointed that hydrogen vehicles weren't as prevalent as they should be.
I haven't changed my view of that.
Yeah, I hear you, and what I told you was, I'm up on hybrid electric vehicles, because the more Priuses and hybrid vehicles I see conservation, just like our Mark talked about.
Yeah. I
see the amount of fuel we're using getting less and less, and that's heading the right direction. But it does another thing. When you create a fuel cell electric vehicle, it's an electric vehicle. And when you have a hybrid electric vehicle, like an internal combustion engine driving a generator, you're 80% on the way to a fuel cell electric vehicle. So the more that we can get people into hydrogen or hybrid electric vehicles, just the internal combustion type, we're getting really close to being able to accept hydrogen as a energy source to go into those electric
Okay, so
vehicles.
that's just a transition. It's
Yes,
a bridge.
It's a bridge.
Where's the other end? Where are we going on this bridge? You know, where are we trying to connect to?
Okay. Well, a lot of people say, well, where are the cars? So I brought this thing from Reuters that came out this morning that is from Paris, and they talk about Honda and Toyota delivering cars in 2015. They're in production. Honda, Toyota, and Hyundai are in production right now for 2015, doing fuel cell electric vehicles. Fuel
Really?
cell electric vehicles.
This will be the first time that major manufacturers have done major
Yes,
sales.
they made commitments. They're going to be delivering them all to California, Europe, and possibly some to other small markets.
I noticed you did not mention Hawaii, Nay.
Not yet, but
Okay.
we're primed to go. And so the big showstopper is infrastructure. And as you know, we operate the hydrogen plant at HECO. The Army operates one at Schofield, and then the Marine Corps is standing up one this summer at Kaneohe. So we're already doing hydrogen dispensing to military and government vehicles, and we're looking to also work with GSA and Department of Energy to increase that over the next few years. And I'm working with the legislature to try and get some state and private partnerships going to increase renewable energy to hydrogen for hydrogen vehicles and transportation.
Inherent in what you say is a sort of competition between the pure electrics and the hydrogen, which are electrics also.
That's right.
And Sharon, for example, I'm going to have to reveal this about her. You know, she has to let you know a disclosure. She has a disclosure. She has a pure
I love
electric.
Marie.
Poor girl. Okay, so here's the thing: with a pure electric, you can put something in your house. You can, you know, get a big one or a little one, but you can put it in your house. You can plug that car in at night, and you don't have to have really, if you live close,
Yeah.
you don't have to anything else. With a hydrogen car, not. You can't
Okay.
do that.
Well, let me paint a picture for you, because I think there's a very big place for all electric vehicles, especially for folks that live near town, because it's perfect. You go and plug in at night. Maybe you don't even have a fully discharged battery. But the advantages to hydrogen are the people who travel longer distances, and also
What's the max range of the cars that are
the
coming
cars
out?
are getting out to close to 300 miles.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
way more than electric.
And that's why Toyota and other companies are in there. The other companies that are online to come on in 17 are Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and I believe Ford is going to start getting into production.
This is very interesting news. I mean, not only the newspaper article, but that in addition. So you'll have 6 or maybe more of the major automakers putting hydrogen cars out, fuel cell hydrogen cars on the road in the next few years. Do we have a sea change here? I mean,
I'm
are
hoping
they
so.
jumping over electric?
I don't think they're jumping over. And I think if you look at some of the data, you'll see that electric vehicles are going to keep growing for a while, and hydrogen will parallel them for a while. And then there's going to be some kind of balance shift out maybe 8 or 10 years from now, where the people who don't need to have the range and the re-energizing capability short term, short time frame, will start to separate out. And when you have
which one will prevail?
the folks that live near town will still be using electric
Don't need that
vehicles,
distance.
and the folks that need to be able to re-energize more frequently, they might switch to hydrogen vehicles. The ones that have to go long distances will switch to hydrogen vehicles.
So what would the capacity be in the vehicle itself? So you charge up once a week, or how much can you put into a car? So, or are you, like for the electric vehicle, you charge almost every night? What would it be? Because you don't
Let me
get a
go
charge
back. Let me
at
go to my
your place.
vision that I talked about
Okay.
then. Here's my end state. Now this is jumping all the way to where I want to get to in maybe 10 years. You have a photovoltaic and solar water heat on your roof, okay? And you have a single family home. You come home, you have a fuel cell electric vehicle, and at home you have a little hydrogen production station that makes maybe 1 kilogram a day or 2 kilograms a day of hydrogen from the solar that you're selling to Hawaiian Electric for whatever they'll buy it for, whatever they choose to buy it for, and PUC tells them to, or sets with them. Instead, you're making hydrogen.
So
and
you're
you're
not selling back to the
No,
utility
and you-
anymore?
and you store it in maybe a propane-sized tank out beside your carport. And then when you come home at night, you drive your fuel cell car into your house, and you plug your house into your car and run your microwaving your TV and everything, and a small generator or compressor that's pumping the hydrogen you made all day into your tank in your car overnight and filling your car up. Now let's say you've had not much sun, haven't generated much hydrogen, getting kind of low. You pull into the hydrogen station on the way to work and fill up your two or 3 kilogram tank. And I recommend it to the auto manufacturers, and I don't know if they're going to do it. They told me it may add too much to the cost of the vehicle, but hydrogen fuel cell vehicles should be plug-in electric also. The vehicles we make at HCAT for the military.
Go right to the battery, directly to the battery.
Right. And the vehicles we make for the military at HECO, we have a big 25-passenger bus right now, crew bus. It can go 30 miles just on its battery charge with no reduced performance. So sometimes we don't even have hydrogen at our plant at HECO or our station at HECO, and we can drive all the way to HECO on an electric charge to fill up the tanks.
Well, over time, maybe the battery gets a little bigger, and maybe you have a combination of sources. You're driving down the road, and you can stop for electric, you can stop for hydrogen, whatever suits you, whatever happens to be there. You have an even Steven choice of driving yourself on either one. That's really exciting. But I want to go back to one word you used.
Okay.
The thing is, I was posing the differential between electric, where you could, bleed it off your home system pretty easily, and hydrogen, where you couldn't. But you kind of answered that, except you used the word compressor.
Yes.
And that means that when you take it out of this tank outside your garage, and it's outside because you don't want it inside, you got to compress it into the car.
Correct.
So this is not just like liquid. The
Right.
gas has to be under pressure.
Right, and what you would do is it's less expensive and simpler to keep it at low pressure outside in a propane-sized tank than to try and compress it and store it that way. And then if you had a low volume, high pressure compressor and let it run all night, it wouldn't use that much energy to pump your tank up while you're sleeping.
I use the hydrogen
Is that totally safe?
Hydrogen, you can talk to all the experts, and I'm certainly not a physicist or an expert, but from everything I've learned, hydrogen is much safer than almost any other fuel that we use right now. Pure hydrogen in the tank won't even burn. It needs oxygen to burn. So if you rupture a tank and it's leaking, number one, the pressure in the tanks is usually on vehicles is 5,000 to 10,000 psi. It's leaking out so fast that it can't burn inside the tank. The fire would be outside the tank. You'll hear it, you'll see it, because it'll be, probably have a vapor as it's jetting out. And so you don't get it near any flammables. And if it does catch fire, you just let it burn outside and have the fire department, whoever, control whatever it's catching on fire.
Yeah.
But
Speaking
you
of
can't
which,
splash it on yourself. And,
Mitch Ewan
yes.
of HNEI, the hydrogen expert, took me to the fire department training. It's out near the airport. They got a big training
Federal
center.
Fire.
It's really something, yeah. It's impressive, this facility. And one of the things they showed us, in fact, the most interesting thing they showed us was a hydrogen fire out of a car, because you can't see
Invisible.
it. It's
It's
totally
invisible.
invisible. It also burns very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's like gas. Gasoline gets on you and burns on you. Hydrogen goes straight up. It just burns right up.
It's 16 times lighter than air. And most of the time, if you can just let it disperse into the air, that's why you have the tank outside, you have very few safety issues. You don't want to have the tank enclosed. If you do have it in any kind of enclosed space, you would have hydrogen sensors, the same way you'd have carbon monoxide sensors or heat sensors, other safety devices around. But, for the most part, when we did train the fire department, and Mitch had the training folks come out, they were real comfortable with it, because there's just some things you got to learn. But overall, it tends to disperse on its own. I was thinking of doing an article for one of the papers and saying, massive hydrogen leak at HECO, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Because if you just let it go and it doesn't catch on fire outside the tank, it's just going to disperse in the air.
Yeah. The trick, by the way, for the fire department is that they couldn't see the fire they were supposed to put out, so they had special gear. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it, but there's this gun, and it looks at the hydrogen, and it looks at the spectroscopy
So
of the
heats it.
flame, and tells you, oh, there's a flame there. You couldn't see the flame.
Yeah.
So how would you put it out? It just
You
doesn't
just, most of the time you let it burn, unless it's burning something outside that you need it to not burn. But if it's just jetting out of the tank and on fire and the flames are just going into the air, you just let it burn out.
And your job is not to put your hand
Yeah, not to get in there.
keep it further away from the whatever.
We're going to take a short break now, if it's okay with you guys. I'm exhausted after this discussion.
Call that firefighting.
Sleep must have been sleep deprivation. But when we come back, I'd like to know how HCAT, you, Stan, and HCAT are going to make all these dreams come true. We'll start at step one. We'll go all the way down, okay? That's Stan Osserman. He's the director of HCAT. And in case you didn't hear it at the beginning, HCAT is the Hawaii, there'll be a test about this, Hawaii Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies, 439 Cook Street.
531 Cook Street.
I knew I was close. 531 Cook Street, right across from Mother Waldron Park in the downtown core of Kaka'ako.
The only part there.
And we are broadcasting from the downtown core of downtown here in Pioneer Plaza, here on ThinkTech Talks Hawaii, the State of Energy, on every Wednesday. And we're doing an update on clean transportation. It's very important we check in with you from time to time about this.
Very important, sir.
We'll be right back. Aloha, I'm Jay Fidel of ThinkTech. We have some news for you. In addition to our ThinkTech TV show and our Asia in Review show on Olelo 54, as of January 1st, we're adding Community Matters to play also 2 hours a week. Check out thinktechhawaii.com for the specific times of each of these shows. We hope you enjoy all three. Mahalo, I'm Jay Fidel.
Hi, I'm Hong Jiang, host for ThinkTech Asia on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. We deal with issues in Asia that's important, including environment, culture, history, religion, you name it. So please tune in on Tuesdays. See you there.
Hi, I'm Attila Saras, host of Next Big Thing, the ThinkTech show, where we give people a place with great ideas, a chance to share them with the world. Be sure to tune in this Friday from 4 to 4:50 p.m., and I will see you there.
Okay, we're back. We're live. 2 out of the 3 of us are mic'd up.
I might.
Okay. The person on the left who is fiddling with her mic, that's Sharon Moriwaki. She's co-chair of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum and co-host of this show. This show is Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. It's going on like its 4th year or something, right? Because first we did movies, and now we did radio, and then we do this.
We want to get all the news out to the public on being more energy
We will
efficient.
continue. We will.
Renewable energy.
And then Stan Osserman, our guest-in-chief, sitting between us where we can watch him. He is the director of the Hawaii Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies at 531 Cook Street, HCAT. You can pass by and you can see this like garage thing where he's got these buses. And the remarkable thing about the HCAT facility is there's no gasoline on the floor.
That's
It's
right.
not a drop.
Clean.
Not a
Clean. That's for clean energy. Okay, before we go on to the point I mentioned, Stan, about how you're going to tell us how HCAT is going to make our dreams come true. First, we have to allow Sharon an opportunity to cross-examine everything you said so far.
Got it.
Okay, let's
I'm
see what
ready.
she can do. No pressure, Sharon.
All right. When you say that you're going to sell your clean energy system with hydrogen, how are you doing at the legislature? And are they buying that? And is that going to really make a difference in our transportation system? Because
Okay.
we are really pushing for clean transportation.
Right. I'm gonna answer 2 ways. First of all, I don't just work with within Hawaii. I work with the Department of Energy and everyone else that I can to get the best ideas and try and make things happen. And as Jay mentioned, we're working with Department of Energy and General Services Administration to bring hydrogen fuel cell powered vehicles to Hawaii using federal money and federal money to build this infrastructure to show that they're viable and get them out on the streets so people get comfortable with them. Get the fire department and police department and first responders trained in how to respond to those vehicles and all that infrastructure stuff. And then what I do at the legislature is I keep talking to the energy committees, both Senator Gabbard and Chris Lee and Representative Thielen, to talk about what we can do, what what place and what role hydrogen has in saving energy and making Hawaii clean. And I just went and talked to them yesterday at one of their committee meetings and told them that, you know, when we try and sell hydrogen, everybody looks for a business case. When is it going to be cheap enough? Because hydrogen is expensive to make if you do it the clean way, which is electrolysis. But that DOE General Services study that we're just finishing up, it's in draft. I can't wait till it's final because I've asked them if I can use it for a sales pitch to everybody. And I'll share this one data point with you, but it's complicated for the background. $6.29 per kilogram of hydrogen. Now, the way I equate that in numbers is, if I can go 100 miles on a kilogram of hydrogen, which is what GM tells me I can do with a fuel cell vehicle, and I can go 100 miles with 3 gallons of gasoline at $4 a gallon, then I can go 100 miles on $12 gasoline or 100 miles on $6.29 of hydrogen.
Half the price.
That sounds like a business case to me. I can't wait to get that out and start sharing it with people because, and that's pretty much all off of renewable energy that we're doing with GSA. And here's how they do some of that. Number one, they're using photovoltaic for their renewable, and it's covering parking. So they're also renting parking spaces underneath in near downtown. So they have another revenue coming in, and it's on federal land, so they don't have to buy the land. So what we want to try and do is get the state, the county, and the federal government to allow private investors to use land so they don't have to worry about the land cost. Try not necessarily to have to connect to the grid, because connecting to the grid requires interconnect agreements and things like that. And if there's no need to connect to the grid, why can't you just make hydrogen for transportation to make hydrogen for transportation? When you start to do those kind of things, the door opens to the infrastructure that we need in Hawaii. And I think that it's starting to make sense to people.
So would the infrastructure be on the federal campus? So you said HECO has it. Would the public be able to use that, or are you thinking of putting infrastructure outside of the campus, and what would that take?
Well, we're looking at federal infrastructure on campus, including federal property. But I'm looking to the legislature to free up some state land, maybe near the airport, maybe near Diamond Head, maybe near downtown in Kaka'ako, that we can put covered parking, photovoltaic, maybe some small wind, to generate hydrogen 24 hours a day with small wind instead of putting big turbines up. But right now, look at the case with wind, the big wind. They are selling their electricity back to HECO, but not all day long, because HECO doesn't need it all day long.
They have trouble realizing their return on investment.
Right. So if I can go and buy their electricity and make hydrogen underneath their windmills and give them 15 cents a kilowatt hour, they're making a heck of a lot more money than they're making right now.
That's the key. But does that technology exist right now? I put small wind on my carport, whatever it is, right? Or some structure, and I drive that electricity down to a little box, and the box creates hydrogen, and then using the hydrogen, it puts that gas or whatever into the tank under pressure.
Right.
Does that device exist right now?
Yes.
As we speak, aujourd'hui? That means today.
Tout sweet aujourd'hui.
Thank you.
Yes, it exists today. In Canada, speaking of French, and in Ohio, the mecca of fuel cells for America, there are companies that produce small-scale fuel cells and electrolyzers.
And at what cost? What cost?
The cost is still a little bit up there, and I'd have to get exact data to give you an exact cost, but that's where the beauty is. There's enough demand now that technology is getting focused. The big cost factor is usually the catalyst or the rare metals you use in the equipment. And if they can get the membranes thinner and thinner with more surface area and use less material, it gets cheaper and cheaper. The one thing that tells me that end state is coming is that these car companies are going, we see it happening. We're doing it in our own labs. We're getting it cheaper ourselves. We know that end state's coming. I mean, big auto companies don't go into production. They may do R&D, but they don't go into production unless they know they're going to make money.
You know, it's so interesting that, for a time, everybody, I said, we forget, we all have this collective amnesia. We forget that Better Place was out there. Better Place was going to rent some space in the Pacific Guardian down the block over here, and they were going to be hooked up to the utility company, and they were going to control all these signals that went from your carport at home to the utility company. It would be another way of net energy metering, almost going both ways, and your balance of power. You love that. Your balance of power would actually feed into your car and vice versa. Okay, this was a great thing, and they would know the status of the charge. They in Guardian, Pacific Guardian, would know the status of the charge, how much you needed. They would know all about you, probably your social security number, everything. Okay, and of course they would give that away to our favorite federal agency.
And NSA would know in a heartbeat.
Yeah, they would in a heartbeat. But all of that sort of has gone away. We have Better Place went away completely. Okay, and that whole notion of connecting everybody up, like on little strings, that's gone away too. And what's elegant about this is that the hydrogen car operates a lot like a gas car. The only difference is it's got hydrogen, and it doesn't have these fancy electrical connections. I think that's probably an improvement, because that would have been an enormous effort to get the community bound up to that. So the question, going back to the question, I think we have to take a break, but I'll give you an advance on the question. Okay. Same question is, what is HCAT going to do to make this happen? Okay. Start at step one right after this break. Okay. This is ThinkTech Talks, Hawaii, the state of clean energy, on Guess What Wednesday, and we're talking about Energy Wednesday, and we're talking about clean transportation here in Hawaii with Stan Osserman, Sharon Moriwaki, and me, and we're going to find out more right after this short break. You'll see. Aloha, I'm Jay Fidel. This is ThinkTech Hawaii, broadcasting live from the Pioneer Plaza in downtown Honolulu. We raise public awareness about tech, energy, and globalism in Hawaii. Technology is critical to our state. A vibrant tech sector will give us new prospects in the global marketplace and will offer great careers and make our economy more resilient. Streaming live on Ustream and Spreaker, ThinkTech allows its hosts and guests invaluable opportunities to report important events and discuss important questions, and to be heard here in Hawaii and around the world. You can find links to our live streams on thinktechhawaii.com or on our mobile website, m.thinktechhawaii.com. And you can see our archive on YouTube. It's all just a click away. We want to do whatever we can to keep Hawaii relevant, connected, and thriving in the complexity of the 21st century. We hope you will help us in those efforts. Tune in today. This is ThinkTech. I'm Jay Fidel. Okay, we're back with ThinkTech Live. We're talking about Hawaii, the state of clean energy. We're having an update in clean transportation, especially ground transportation, from Stan Osserman, the director of HCAT, which is, and I know this by heart, the Hawaii Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies. I always knew it by heart.
Yes, you do.
Okay. And the question in the room is, whether you can answer it, I don't know, is what is HCAT going to do? You can talk in little steps or in big ones to get to that, what do you call it, the final state? The final solution?
The
end game.
Clean transportation.
Okay, let me answer it this way. I have a lot to do. What I did at the beginning of this legislative session was I had my staff get together and we brainstormed if we could get money from the legislature, big if, didn't know there's going to be any, don't know if I'll ever get any, what would we do with it? And we came up with almost 2 pages of 12-point single-space stuff, things like working with the university system for hydrogen fuel cell mechanic curriculum at the community colleges, working with Department of Transportation for safety check issues and safety issues for transporting hydrogen, working with university on contests or scholarships for people that could do that creative end state I talked about, where you drive your car home and plug it into your house. Just a whole laundry list of things. And I said, in a perfect world, if Stan got money, these are the kind of things I'd like to do. So the question is, are we going to get any money? And we'll see what we can do, and how much, and what we can do with it. But my focus is on infrastructure. The transportation piece, I mentioned yesterday that we really don't have to do a whole lot more R&D on the fuel cells and the transportation. The car companies are doing that, and they already built the business case. But if the infrastructure is not there, we're not going to have the cars. So
You
my
mean, but charging stations
right,
and...
the distribution or the dispensing stations, the plants to make it, and the renewables to make the hydrogen.
But back to the R&D for a minute. You know, Mitch Ewan and HNEI were working on fuel cells.
Yes, they are.
And I recall back in the last days of the Lingle administration, there was this big snafu over the hydrogen fund. Remember that? And the management of the hydrogen, there was $10 million in there. Last time I looked, they couldn't find anybody who's doing R&D in hydrogen here. Is that operating? Are you benefiting by that? Is anybody benefiting by that?
Well, the hydrogen fund was populated by the barrel tax.
Right.
The barrel tax is set to expire in 2015. So if the barrel tax is extended, or could be extended, then there's revenues for potentially for a hydrogen fund. And that's kind of why I put that list together for the legislature. So if everything works out the right way, they have the roadmap that I'm giving them, what I'd like to do with it. And then we can get into specifics of how you would set up a station. But we already know how to set up a station because we've done it for the Air Force.
So it's not R&D, it's infrastructure,
That's right.
it's stations.
Yes.
Commercializing what you've done
Exactly.
already.
And the technology for the hoses and the
They're
it's all
standardized.
done. All
In fact, you
standardized.
mentioned California. California has, Arnold Schwarzenegger has coined the term hydrogen highway for California. The state of California did two important things, and I'm working with the legislature on at least one of them, which is the state has to make a recurring commitment to clean energy and clean transportation. And they have to be specific about it, and that's part of what I testify the legislature for, to get the legislature to pass laws that refocus us on that 70% carbon reduction by 2030. You know, and that theme should keep coming up because it tells manufacturers and it tells the public we're serious. That's number one. Number two, an area where maybe we can't do as much here in Hawaii, but California currently puts $20 million into building hydrogen stations a year. I don't know that Hawaii has to put that much in or even should, but California has a big infrastructure to deal with. They have hundreds of miles of road. Their people travel 2-3 hours sometimes to go from place to place, and they need hydrogen out there in a bigger infrastructure. So they have big challenges. Hawaii, we're blessed with a lot of renewables and a fairly dense population on Oahu. We can make this happen with a lot less money than California.
So I see the electric charging stations at the shopping centers and places where I guess there's over 100 stalls. What would it be like? So you'd have a hydrogen charging station right next to it, or you said it has to be outdoors, or if you were to have a commercial?
A lot of the hydrogen stations in California that are up now are actually co-located with gas stations.
Oh.
They're actually right next door to them.
I've heard that too, yeah.
So they're co-located, and they're
And it's
usually
safe.
run by
It's-
Chevron or one of the other, or Mobil or Shell, one of the big oil companies. And they don't necessarily make clean hydrogen though. The legislature, when I talked to them this week, asked me, what about getting hydrogen from other fossil fuels like liquid natural gas? That process is called reformation, and it's not as clean. It still leaves you a carbon footprint
You
at the
need a
end.
big plant
Right.
to do that, expensive infrastructure, yeah.
So I tell them we want, as a state organization, which HCAT is, we need to commit to clean hydrogen, which is electrolysis and doing it. It's the expensive way, but it's the clean way.
I'll give you an idea that I have. I'm not sure that these new cars that are coming out include this idea, but suppose I have some PV on my roof or small wind, and I buy a little black box, and I make hydrogen and I feed it into a tank the size of a scuba tank, which is what, a couple of what do you call it? What's the
Couple
unit?
cubic feet, maybe.
Couple of cubic feet.
Less than a cubic foot.
Whatever. I mean, it's a scuba tank. Steel, strong, not going to explode or anything. And then I sell this on the highway. I sell this to my friends. I sell it to Sharon, whose next car will probably be a hydrogen car. I know this. And
Have to work on her.
And now she keeps this. She keeps this in her garage or in the trunk of her car. And when she needs supply, she takes this scuba tank affair and, puts it in a kind of
A bracket.
and closes the bracket, and the front, the head of that tank gets driven into a receptacle of some kind, and now it feeds the car. And there's no need to stop. There's no need for a pump. What I like about that kind of thing, though, is it's fungible. And I can buy these tanks anywhere, on the
That's a
highway,
good point.
in the
That's-
grocery store.
It's almost like a Tesla model when they do the quick change with the batteries.
Yeah.
Except you could put a tank in and out. And really I think the only technically difficult part with that would be the connection. Hydrogen is a very small molecule. That's why it's number 1 on the periodic chart, and it's tiny. To make a good seal on it is not necessarily technically easy. One of the biggest things that we do at Cook Street is work with the companies that have very good stainless steel coupling technologies that don't leak with a really small molecule in the system. So that would be the trick. But is it unsurmountable? Heck no. We
Could
just
it
need to
be
start
that
working
on
on
Cook
it.
Street, you could actually design something?
It could be.
that
I'm
could
always
be
designing
adopted
things.
worldwide.
I'm always trying to design things.
That's Stan Osserman.
I was a design major at UH, so I got to design
That's
things.
proof positive right there.
There
So
you
is
go.
the design, is that where it happens on Cook Street? The lines tinkering?
Some people say that Cook Street is the center of the energy universe.
It is.
The hydrogen universe,
The
anyway.
transportation energy,
Yeah, the
at least.
transportation.
If you look at our wall outside, you'll see. Come by.
We're going to have to close this up.
Right, sir.
I am sorry, I
Oh,
apologize.
That was so interesting.
Yeah,
I'd like to
we
go
just
on.
started, but that means we'll have to have you back, Stan.
I'd love to come back.
Stan Osserman, Director of the Hawaii Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies, HCAT, okay, that's Sharon Moriwaki, SM. Looking for an
And a
acronym.
lawyer.
And Stan Osserman, SO. And I'm Jay Fidel, and this has been
JF.
JMF, if you don't mind. This has been Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, an update on clean transportation, a lot of hydrogen in our cars. So we'll have a program tomorrow I need to tell you about. This is the 2014 Midterm Legislative Report that includes a panel discussion run by Bob Toyofuku, who is with Hawaii Advocates, a Hawaii lobbyist. And David Ige, Senator David Ige, is a chair of the Ways and Means Committee of the Senate. He's also running for governor. And Representative Sylvia Luke, the chair of House Finance, and Aaron Ling Johansson, the co-vice chair of House Finance, along with Calbert Young, who is the state budget director. And we are going to be talking about the kind of things you were touching on, Stan. It's how much money do we really have? How are we going to spend it? What are the priorities? What are the political dynamics of all of that? What's the price tag? And what's the possibility of passage? The people who come to this program are going to come away with a much more sophisticated idea of where the money is and where it's going to go. Tomorrow, it's at 11:30 at Laniakea, the Women's YWCA on Richard Street downtown. So try to make it. Otherwise, we'll see you for more
Next
tomorrow
week.
afternoon.
And
Yeah,
next
ThinkTech.
Wednesday for Energy Wednesday
Oh,
again.
don't forget that. Aloha.
Thanks, Sharon.
Aloha.
Thank
Say
you.
aloha.
Aloha.
Good work.